Today, we're going to be covering the very important topic of what to look for when buying a vacation rental property. What crucial things should you know before you buy a vacation rental property? Are there some important hacks that can save you some undue concern? There absolutely is, and by the end of this video, I'm going to reveal those secrets and the things that I've done to acquire a half dozen vacation rental properties within 14 months. Knowing what to look for in a vacation rental property is a really important skill. Knowing what to look for can make or break an investment. Don't fear, because throughout this video, I will break down exactly what to look for when analyzing a vacation rental property. By first going through what data gives me a solid foundation and where to find that data, and finally, how to make sense of it, including a checklist that I've used for the half dozen vacation rental properties that I own. If you're ready, let's go. What is the data that you need to consider purchasing a vacation rental property? Number one is area. Areas that attract vacationers is the number one thing to look for. If there aren't any visitors, if you don't have enough flow of people vacationing and visiting that, then the chance of you having enough customers staying at your vacation rental is probably going to go down, and there won't be enough revenue to service the loan or to make the money that you're hoping to make when you purchased your vacation rental property. So annual visitors is a great place to start. And this can be an interesting test. I think most people, when they think of annual visitors, have a pretty good idea or know where to find that pretty quickly. But to demonstrate, if I were to ask you which national park in the United States has the most annual visitors every single year, what would your answer be? Most people usually tell me Yellowstone National Park, Yosemite National Park, but both of those answers would be completely wrong. And there's a national park that gets almost 3 or 4 times the visitors that those ones do. And it's the Smoky Mountains National Park. And if you think about it, think about the population density close to eastern Tennessee. There's quite a few cities with large number of populations. And the Smoky Mountain National Park gets almost 12 to 13 million annual visitors every single year. And they've done that every year for probably the last 20, 25 years. Now, Yellowstone and Yosemite get almost 3.5 million, but they aren't even in the top 5. Right below the Smoky Mountains National Park, you have Grand Canyon and you have Zions. And then you have Yellowstone, and one more below that is Yosemite. So that's one of the reasons why you've seen so many vacation rentals pop up around Gatlinburg, Tennessee, Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, or even Bryson City, North Carolina, because both of those are kind of gateways to the Smoky Mountains National Forest, and people have done really well with vacation rentals there. Now, some of those areas have become really saturated because of the visitors, but as I've talked about in a lot of my other videos, saturation is okay as long as your property is unique, or you set it apart, or have unique amenities or features that make it one that people want to visit, with high reviews that people really just boast about your property because it's so amazing. So where do you find this data? Well, it's a simple Google search. And that's how I started out when I started looking for my properties. I started searching areas. Where is the best area to own a vacation rental property? And what I did is I started comparing all the lists from this publication and that publication, and I started seeing trends of which places started bubbling to the top. Then when I found those areas, I did a little bit more research just to see how many vacation rentals were in that area. Is it saturated? Is it not saturated? Is it up and coming? Is there data and annual visitors numbers to support that data? Those are all interesting things to look for. But once I have those cities, I take it a step further. And that next phase is the data. And I like to go to airdna.co, and that's going to give you all the data you need, or most of the data you need, to start making an informed decision and move to the next step of analyzing a vacation rental property. Now, what AirDNA does is it takes all the data from people that are renting their homes, from the homeowners to the hosts to the property managers, and it compiles it. And it takes that data and it gives you the average occupancy rate, it gives you the average nightly rate, and the average annual revenue for the property. And at that point, you're able to make a good decision. So if you have, hey, these cities look pretty good just on the Google search I've done, the annual visitors, the data behind it supports all that. Now I've got actual specific data for that area. Once you have that, you can start plugging numbers into a short-term rental calculator, a vacation rental calculator, and start even analyzing it even further to if it makes financial sense. And if this investment, that's one of the coolest investments out there, can service the loan associated with the property. You know, and the cool thing about some of that data on AirDNA is obviously there's 2 schools of thoughts. If you can increase the occupancy rate, if you go from maybe a 65% to a 75%, that's going to increase revenue. Or if you increase the average nightly rate, that's going to increase revenue as well. And there's things you can do for both of those, but either increasing one or the other is going to make a big difference. Now, I've never seen a property that has 100% occupancy rate. I've seen one that's been really close. Maybe you've heard about it. It's the Rabbit House that's located in close to Joshua Tree National Forest in California. I think it had a 99% occupancy rate, and it has for many years just because it's a rabbit rabbit theme in and outside the home with a lot of cool features. Go check it out. It's pretty fun to look at. Now, one other cool thing about AirDNA is they've just incorporated what's called an AI score, where they've taken artificial intelligence, they've compiled all the data that they've got, and they've given it a score, and the closer it is to 100 means that that area is pretty good. Now, I've looked just recently, Savannah, Georgia, Charleston, South Carolina have pretty high AI scores, and so those are areas that I've been looking at just because AirDNA gives that data, and they have a high score which compiles all that data and then analyzes it to tell you if it's a decent area to look at. But once again, those are all starting points to do a deeper dive into the data. Here's the other things that are on my checklist, and that should be on your checklist when doing that property. So once you have the area, once the data matches up to it and tells you it's going to be a good vacation rental, and maybe if you've used a vacation rental calculator to do a deeper dive, here's the other things you need to do. You need to research the area for regulations. If regulations are against short-term rentals, or they might be in the future, you need to understand that. The property I have in Island Park, I've talked about this in other videos, but it's that important that right now there's a battle going on that the community only wants to allow 3 visitors per bedroom because the sewer systems, the septic systems can't handle that, because you have some cabins up there close to Yellowstone National Park that have 2 bedroom, 2 bath, but they've got 20 beds upstairs and a loft on bunk beds, and the sewer systems and septic systems can't handle 15 guests for 2 bathrooms, and so they're trying to limit it to 3 guests per bedroom, which would take that property from being able to host 15 people down to 6 people. And people have bought those properties with the idea in mind that they are going to make revenue off of 15 people, not 6. So there's a huge battle going on right now. We have enough bedrooms to service the guests that we advertise for. But regulations is a very important thing. Second thing you need to look at is affordability. Can you afford the area? So if your budget's $500,000 and all the properties above that, look elsewhere. Pretty much common sense. Second is active listings. Are there short-term rentals that are being rented in that area? Can you have guests? Is the demand there, right? That's really what that's looking at, is the demand there. The next thing is optimal size of the vacation rental that you want to buy. Is how many bedrooms and bathrooms do you really want to have that are going to be optimal for people staying there? You know, I was on a drive with somebody yesterday up in Island Park. He was a maintenance guy for a lot of the cabins in the area, and he says it seems like the smaller cabins, the 2 or 3 bedrooms do really well, or the ones with 7, 8 bedrooms do really well. The ones in between don't do as well or aren't booked as much. And he sees a lot of that because he's a maintenance man up there for one of the major property management companies. So understanding optimal size is really important. Finally, let's look at the general rule of thumb of financial that I like to first do when I look into a property. If you want to do a deeper financial dive, some of my other videos will actually talk about what I actually look at, and even has a short-term rental calculator that I utilize in the video and show it for you. I break it down. But here's the general rule of thumb. When looking at a vacation rental property, first thing you want to do are annual rents at least 10% of the purchase price. So if you're purchasing a property for $400,000, does the property at least make $40,000 in annual rents? If it does, you can continue further with your analysis. If it doesn't, I'd probably let it go. Now, if it does 10% of annual rents, it doesn't mean that you buy the property, but it means you analyze it even further. If annual rents are 15% of the property, a $400,000 property that does $60,000 in annual rents, that's 15% of the purchase price. That's a pretty good deal. That's one I might move forward with, but I would do further analysis. Now, if the property does 20% of the annual rents of the purchase price, that is a do not pass up deal. I would move forward with that. If you don't, pass it on to me. Now, these are some things that I've seen that have worked really well when I analyze and what I'm looking for when I'm buying a potential vacation rental property, but I'd be interested to see what you do. What are the things that you look at when you're buying a vacation rental property? Now, as I mentioned in this video, it's really important to have a short-term or vacation rental calculator available so you can enter in all the information and analyze to see if it's a good deal or not. And I actually have one for you free of charge. All you got to do is click on the link below, aaronsfreetraining.com. It is the exact vacation rental calculator that I use for all of my properties, and it's free of charge. No gimmicks, no frills, nothing. Just click on the link. Once again, thanks for stopping by. Have an amazing day.